Thank you and good afternoon. This is Sam Vaughn for Sam's Sports Report and Sam's Mental Health Day and Sam's Learning Disability Day today. Although they all kind of combine into one. I was trying to find a story of what it was like to be diagnosed with a learning disability. Instead, I came across all these videos that may complete a series even. A reminder, we are on part 2. This kid reminds me a lot of me, so that's probably why I chose him. Naming the stats of players, being able to name player stats and teams, all that stuff. I wanted to play basketball in college and maybe up until the NBA. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I have always been out of my media family, not my cousins, not them, because they are better athletes than me. And I say nobody in my family runs like I do. I mean, nobody. But I've worked on it for 3 years. I've practiced and practiced and practiced. I usually go in the 8-mile range, have beaten a 750, a 746 mile, which was fast in high school. I have been throwing a lot of curveballs in my life, just like this kid. In my life, a learning disability and a mental health diagnosis of 25, and more things. We're going to stick with the learning disability today, but my memory of them coming more about when I was 7 or 8, same like this kid. I remember writing and drawing as a complicated. We never really got to use those computers in those days. Now they are using them. Using scissors was also a difficult task for me. Lacking sense of direction is also a difficult task to me. Reading Google Maps is a difficult task. Talking to me, taking me to special educations like Maplebrook, Horizon, Brim, Options. NVLD is a learning disability, a nonverbal learning disability. Yes, at times everything senses more about the disability. Organizations recognize social difficulties, and wondering if people were mad at me was one of my things. Being diagnosed with it, even though I didn't like it, was better for me in the end. What I took towards it for college, I got extended time, note taker, while using my computer also to take notes myself. Information when I was little, being diagnosed with a learning disability, it was a little uncomfortable. I was little. Coming across NVLD sounded like a miracle to this family. And it kind of was like a miracle to my family. Everybody diagnosed with NVLD is different. When you know one person, you know only one person. Likely you know more than one person, though. She was inspired. Emily Erone Miller was inspired by plenty of famous people. Erone Miller she was inspired, a girl named Erone Miller, by Chris Rock. Although there's many famous people that came out with learning disability, felt like it made more sense. In his NVLD, she says he helped bring attention to come terms for his diagnosis. Roughly 3 million people have diagnosed with learning disability, and I believe there's more. After more than studying NLV, Amy Gross goals was reacher diagnosed with learning disability. She is working on getting it diagnosed in the NLVD and also the Mental Health and Psychologist Handbook of Mental Health. I believe now that mental health has gone some ways. The sooner we get easier to help, people will get diagnosed. As far as Teddy, he goes to a psychologist. In the NLVD community, everyone is struggling with something. Everyone struggles with something. But if we picture it as a big deal or not a big deal, if we picture it as a big deal, it is in our reality. And it's a big deal no matter what you say. And if you push the right answers, Laura Lundley and Becca Linley and Aaron Miller opening about with the proper diagnosis and hoping that people can get help. And Teddy mentioned now turning 14 and now being 16 or 17 2 years later, and hopes to play college golf before going pro. Maybe we'll hear his name someday again soon. Learn more about NLVD on the links that I will link to the story. And for more, the more we learn, the better we know how to deal with it. When we have come so far with learning disabilities, how to deal with this, it seems little but bit more understood than a mental health disorder. That's CMO Mental Health and CMO Learning Disability Day. We've kind of combined the last 2 days. That's CMO on Sports and Sam's Mental Health Day.
As we always say, Teddy at his best, there's nobody better.
At age 13, Teddy Halpin dreams of becoming a professional golfer. But his mother, Becca Halpin, sometimes worries about his future.
He got this curveball. It's been really complicated. Teddy at 4 could name all the presidents. He could give you every football and baseball player stat. He was just this happy, outgoing child. When he got to maybe first grade, second grade, that's when the wheels started to fall off. School became a place where he was really just feeling like a failure.
How frustrating was it for you?
It was incredibly hard to watch.
Simple tasks like writing, drawing, and using scissors were difficult for Teddy. He also lacked a sense of direction.
We didn't really know what was going on.
Just over 5 years ago, Becca and her husband took him to a special education director in Maine. Teddy was diagnosed with nonverbal learning disability, or NVLD.
Everything made sense then.
Despite its name, individuals diagnosed with NVLD have a strong verbal ability, but trouble with things like fine and gross motor skills, spatial awareness, organization, focus, relationships with peers, and reading social cues.
How did life change for all of you when he got the proper diagnosis?
In a lot of ways, it changed for the better. When you look at it through the lens of NVLD, he has really very little awareness of where he is.
As Becca read up on the disability, she realized there was little information out there until she met Laura Limley with the NVLD Project, a group dedicated to outreach and funding research.
How did you guys find each other?
I came across the NVLD Project on the internet, and I showed up at the office. I think I was the first person who had ever showed up.
This isn't something that everybody is aware of.
And everybody's different. I mean, the saying is, if you know one person with NVLD, you know one person with NVLD.
Laura was inspired to start the nonprofit by her daughter, Ariel Miller, who was diagnosed at age 5. Now an adult, Ariel wants to use her experiences to set an example for other kids.
It's hard to see your kids struggle socially. I mean, academically, Ariel was very successful, but socially, it was really challenging.
What NVLD does is it gives you slow processing. Still have trouble making friends, but I'm much better at it.
And what about visually and spatially? What type of activities are more difficult for you?
Well, directions, like finding places. I live on Google Maps.
Don't we all?
Ariel and Teddy are not alone. When comedian Chris Rock opened up about his NVLD diagnosis in 2020 in The Hollywood Reporter, Laura says it finally helped to attract much-needed attention.
I think it was really a brave thing to do.
Roughly 3 million children and adolescents living in North America meet criteria for nonverbal learning disability.
After more than a decade of studying NVLD, Amy Margolis, a researcher working with the project, is aiming to get it officially listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM, giving doctors information to accurately diagnose the condition.
So the sooner we can identify these problems, the better outcome they're going to have.
As for Teddy, he continues his occupational therapy and appointments with his psychologist, along with the love and support of not just his family, but the NVLD community.
One thing that we have always told Teddy over and over again is that everybody is struggling with something. You have to advocate and you have to push to get the right answers.
For sure. And we want to give a special thank you to Becca Halpin, who's also a board member for the NVLD Project, Laura Limley and Ariel Miller for just opening our eyes to this condition. NVLD, it's not in the DSM, though Amy and her colleagues expect to submit a proposal in June. They hope that with proper diagnosis and services and support that people can get the help that they need. And happy birthday to Teddy.
Happy birthday, Teddy.
14 on Friday.
The big 1-4.
Oh, yeah. Big 1-4. And he hopes to play golf in college before going pro. And you can learn more about NVLD on today.com.
That's so important. The sooner we can diagnose, the sooner we can treat. That's what they say, right?
You know what's wrong,
That's
and then
right.
you can deal with it.
Exactly.